Okay, this is Saturday, and the first stop of the day is the town of Magdala. This is where Mary Magdalene is from. Magdala means the town of the tower, and so this was probably a walled city with it had like a black tower in the city where it got its name. So the next few scenes will be of this city.
What is this for?
This is the first part of the excavations that we're going to see. You can see in the distance here that we are still on the Sea of Galilee. So, like many of the towns we saw 2 days ago, this is right on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. This is an excavation of the synagogue that was in Magdala. Most of the synagogues you see in the Holy Land were built after the destruction of the temple, and they were much more elaborate. This is one of the very few that's been excavated that was from before the destruction of the temple. It's very simple. You can see they look like steps, but they're actually benches where the elders would sit. That center part was where the actual synagogue was. They had a niche over at the far end where it would face Jerusalem, face the temple in Jerusalem. This is a shot of the hillside outside of Magdala, and you can see the caves dotting the hillside. This is a mural of the woman touching the hem of Jesus' garment. This is an excavation of a home that was in Magdala. And you can see how small the rooms were. This actually may have been multiple homes, but they found the remains of bread and fish, things that they would eat for breakfast. That's how they know that this is these were residential. Okay, we are in the Valley of the Winds and the Doves. We saw this from a distance 2 days ago, and the significance of this is the main ancient road from Nazareth to Galilee. Jesus probably walked this road numerous times, maybe hundreds of times in his lifetime, traveling from his hometown to his adopted town of Capernaum. And you can see the hills, and I don't know if you can see it from here, but there's caves up in those hills, numerous caves. This is several miles from the Sea of Galilee to Nazareth. Okay, to the right of the trail, there are these kind of stones. I thought they were walls, but this is a remains of a little Jewish village that would have been here in Jesus' day, and there was a synagogue here actually. So Jesus may have very well have attended that synagogue. This is just here on the slope of this mountain. Okay, here's the next big stop for Saturday. This is another national park, and here's another tell. We learned about tells yesterday, and this is an even older site than Tel Megiddo. This is Tel Bet Shean, and it is actually there was a city here 7,000 years ago. This is we're at the very southern end of the Valley of Jezreel, so this is still in the very fertile area of Canaan. And so this was along this main road that would run north and south. And this was a caravan stop. There was some springs here, and this is a place where caravans as far away from China would come to sell their goods along the Mediterranean rim. And so this was ruled for most of its history by Egypt. However, when Joshua and the Israelites invaded Canaan, they conquered almost everything, but this was one of the sites they never did conquer during the conquest of Canaan. However, David, there were several. So if you read through First and Second Samuel, there were several things that King David conquered and took over. That was like a completion of the conquest by Joshua. One of them was Tel Megiddo, which we saw yesterday, and another one was Tel Bet Shean, which is what we're looking at right here. So it was actually when the Assyrians sent the northern kingdom into exile, they destroyed this site. And then it was end up being reoccupied by the Romans when the Romans took over in the like 63 BC. So there's some bathhouses over here. There's the main road. Actually, they uncovered the main road. You can see the columns there, and then there's the actual tell, and there's some structures up there at the top of that hill. Here's a view from up top of the tell, and I forgot to mention, this was one of the cities of the Decapolis, and we read in the Gospels how Jesus crosses over to the Decapolis, and this is where he heals the demoniac who has, I'm winded because we just climbed 150 steps up this hill. This is where Jesus healed the man who was living among the tombs, and he cast the demons into the herd of pigs. This is the remains of an Egyptian palace during the 12th century when Egypt ruled over this tell and the city. They built a residence here for the governor, the Egyptian governor who kind of presided over the region. Here's a view down to the southern end of the Jezreel Valley, and I think that's the Jordan River. If you see that line of trees, that is the Jordan River. You can see how much smaller it is here now that we're down south from the Sea of Galilee. Okay, here is probably what's going to be the last shot of the site of the city. One thing I didn't mention, I mentioned some of the early history of the city. It was actually leveled by a major earthquake in 749 AD. You think, of course, in the news, a major earthquake has just hit Turkey, and that fault line that runs through Turkey is the same one that goes through here. And a major earthquake leveled this, and it wasn't really, you can imagine all those pillars just collapsing. And it wasn't really settled until relatively recently, and so that's a little bit of the more recent history of this site. Okay, so I just mentioned the earthquake that leveled this place in the 8th century AD. Interesting little tidbit, when they excavated this site, this was a residence, and they found the remains of a man, like embracing a chest of gold, a chest of money. So he died with his money. He was trying to protect his money, and he died with it. So there's like a parable there somewhere. Okay, we're at the site of the ancient city of Jericho, and we've seen some. This is another tell, like the other tells that we've seen. Tells being artificial hills that have been made as you have a city and it's torn down and destroyed, and they build another city. And then that's torn down and destroyed. This is actually the oldest one. We've seen some old ones, 4,000 years. Megiddo, about 5,000 years old. This is 10,000 years old as a city, and there's evidence that people were living on this site for 50,000 years. A lot has happened here. We are looking out to the west, and the east, and past these buildings is the famous crossing of the Jordan. This is where Joshua and the Israelites cross into the promised land. It's also the same location where John the Baptist did his ministry and did his baptizing. Ancient Jericho, where Jesus had met Zacchaeus, is actually over here at the foot of that mountain. It was not in the location of the old Jericho, because remember, no one was to build on top of Jericho again. So Jericho in Jesus' day was way over there. Now, over here, we're looking back toward, looking back toward the west. That up there, you see that mountain with the flat top? That is the traditional site of the Mount of Temptation, where Satan showed Jesus all the kingdoms of the world and tempted him with them. Now, up at the top, you may be able to see there's a structure. There's a Roman Catholic monastery at the very top. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to try and zoom in here. You can see on the face of the cliff there is a Greek Orthodox monastery, and there's about 6 Greek Orthodox monks living there. And we're about to go see the oldest structure here, which is a 10,000-year-old tower, and that'll be next. Here is the tower. This is the oldest known structure in the world. It's 10,000 years old. You can see another part of the excavation here. Now, I actually haven't mentioned the most famous thing that happened here, which obviously was Joshua and the Israelites marching around the city 7 times and blowing the horn and shouting, and the walls came down. This is the first city that they conquered after they entered into the Promised Land. Interestingly, the excavations have discovered there were 2 walls. There was a higher inner wall and then a smaller outer wall, and there is great evidence that those walls crumbled, and likely that taller inner wall crumbled and fell into the outer wall and made it crumble as well. So of course we know exactly how that happened. Also, what you are looking at out here, this is the hill country of Judea. So when you see that in the scriptures, remember when Mary goes to visit her cousin Elizabeth and the hill country of Judea, this is where she came. So this was a long trip from Nazareth to the hill country of Judea. This is like 50 miles or so. Okay, that is it for Saturday. I got to tell you, the most exciting part of this for me may have been as we left Jericho, and this isn't on any of the videos, but as we left Jericho, we came straight to Jerusalem, and it was a steady, pretty heavy incline driving all the way from Jericho to Jerusalem. And I just got a sense of how many times in the Bible it talks about Jesus going up to Jerusalem, or someone goes up to Jerusalem. You have the Psalms of Ascent where people would go on to pilgrimages to Jerusalem. And now I understand why they are Psalms of Ascent. It is so high up. And I just got a sense of that. And as we drove along, we would see numerous flocks of sheep being driven by a shepherd, sometimes a shepherdess. It was just really, really powerful. And so I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow, Sunday, the 26th, we're going to begin by going to the Mount of Olives. We're going to see the Garden of Gethsemane. We're going to make the Palm Sunday walk from the Mount of Olives to Jerusalem. And finally, we're going to go to Bethlehem and see the Church in the Nativity, the site where Jesus was born. So I'm very, very excited for tomorrow, and maybe a longer video tomorrow because there's just so much. So look forward to that. God bless you guys.